Your body already makes Ozempic. The exact same hormone the injection mimics is being released right now in your gut, every time you eat. The problem isn't that the system is missing, it's that something inside you destroys it in under 2 minutes on purpose. And the cells that make it sit at the very end of your gut, somewhere most of your food never even reaches. You can eat a 1,000-calorie donut and your body won't register a single bite. And one bad night of sleep delays the whole system by 90 minutes the next morning. So before you ever consider an injection, it's worth seeing how your built-in version actually works, where it comes from, what shuts it off, and the small things that quietly restore it. Most of what blocks it isn't food, it's geography. The gut has eyes. Cells called L cells lining the inside of your intestine with little tendrils that wave into the food stream. They taste what you ate. They feel the pressure. They make a call. When the right thing shows up, they release a hormone, the same one Ozempic copies. That hormone has 4 jobs. Release insulin. It tells your pancreas to stop dumping extra sugar. It tells your stomach to slow down. And it tells the foreman in your brain that you're full. A healthy body releases enough of this hormone after a meal to keep you steady for hours. The shot from a pen delivers about 100 times more. Same hormone, wildly different dose. If you've ever wondered why some meals leave you full for hours and others leave you starving an hour later, that's this signal deciding whether to show up. But there's a reason most modern food never reaches them, and it's not what's in it. The cells that make the signal aren't where you'd think. A handful sit at the top of the small intestine. The real concentration, the army, lives at the bottom, the far end of the small intestine and the colon, the end of the line. Here's the problem. Refined carbs, white flour, most ultra-processed food. It's basically pre-digested. Your body absorbs it in the first few inches of the small intestine, near the top. It finishes digesting before it ever reaches the cells at the end. The signal never fires. The donut paradox. There's another wrinkle. The signal doesn't fire in one go. It fires in 2 waves. A small wave within 10 or 15 minutes, set off by nerve signals the moment food enters your gut, and a big, sustained wave later, only when actual food physically touches the cells at the bottom. Refined food triggers the small wave and never the big one. You feel briefly full, then hollow again 90 minutes later. You ate 1,000 calories. The fullness sensors in your gut never saw it. Most people have spent years assuming the stomach decides when they're full. It doesn't. The decision is made 3 feet further down. So when the signal does fire, when food reaches the end of the line, what happens to the hormone next? That's where it gets uglier. The 90-second bouncer. The moment the hormone steps into your bloodstream, an enzyme finds it. Job description: destroy this exact hormone, nothing else. It's called DPP4, the bouncer, and it works fast. The hormone has a half-life of about 90 seconds. Less than 15% of what your gut makes ever reaches the rest of your body. The rest, the bouncer eats. This is why eating a bowl of cereal and feeling hollow an hour later isn't a willpower problem. The bouncer cleared the building before the signal reached your brain. You were sent home before the message arrived. This is also the part of the story almost nobody tells. Your body makes its own Ozempic and then immediately destroys it. The drug works because it was engineered to hide from the bouncer. Once researchers figured out the bouncer existed, they designed a hormone he couldn't grab. That's what semaglutide is, a chemical disguise. Same hormone family, same target, different costume. The shot lasts a week. The natural pulse lasts 90 seconds. That sounds like a flaw, like the body is sabotaging itself. It isn't a flaw. There's a reason it works that way. And we'll come back to it because the 90-second window is exactly what modern life is busy sabotaging. 3 things shut the system off. None of them are the ones you'd guess. Number 1, most people think hunger is a willpower problem. Within 30 minutes of high stress, your body starts shredding the instructions for making this hormone. Not the hormone, the instructions, the manual. Stress doesn't just turn the signal down, it tears up the recipe. Number 2, one bad night of sleep delays the signal the next morning by about 90 minutes. The signal still fires, it just arrives after you've finished a second plate. You weren't hungrier, you were earlier than your body. Number 3, healthy-looking processed food. Emulsifiers, the ingredients that make creamers smooth, dressings shelf-stable, low-fat yogurt creamy. They don't just sit in the food. They strip the lining of your gut. The little sensing tendrils retract into the wall. The cells are still there, they just can't see your food anymore. So it's a chain, the manual, the timing, the sensors. Break any one link and the whole signal stops carrying. And usually the three arrive together. A stressful week, a short night, a diet that leans on packaged food. Any one is solvable. All three at once, and even the best meal won't make you feel full. You ate the salad. You drank the water. You're somehow hungrier than when you started. That's the chain, not your character. The factory in the wall. Inside the belly fat itself, there's a tiny enzyme that does one job. It takes the inactive version of cortisol, the stress hormone, and switches it on, locally, right inside the fat. The fat cell brews its own stress signal, and the stress signal, as we just covered, shreds the manual for making the fullness hormone. That's the loop. The fat makes the stress hormone disables the fullness signal, the lack of fullness signal keeps the fat there. Round and round. This is why stress belly isn't just a phrase. It's a small chemical operation set up inside the fat itself, and it's very hard to argue with using willpower alone. Yes, your belly fat is technically running a small pharmaceutical operation. No, you cannot tax it. Which is why the fix isn't a single food. It's a sequence, and the sequence starts before the first bite. The natural switch. 15 to 30 minutes before a real meal, a tablespoon of vinegar and water, or lemon. That's it. It slows down your stomach. The drama queen stops her usual hurry. Food sits longer. The fullness signal gets a head start. Then the meal itself, in order. Fibrous vegetables first, protein second, refined carbs last, if at all. Same food, different order, different signal. In that order, more of the meal survives long enough to reach the cells at the end of the line. The signal actually fires, the big wave, not just the small one. Then there's the grain trick. Not bread, not pasta, the actual kernel. Barley, rye, oat groats, the whole grain, intact. There's a reason this works. The whole kernel is wrapped in fiber the upper gut can't open. By the time bacteria further down break it apart, the food has finally reached the cells at the end of the line. The bacteria release small fatty acids the cells read as a direct trigger. Big wave, big signal. Hours of stable fullness long after you stop thinking about the meal. A bowl of barley at dinner raises your fullness signal at breakfast the next morning by over 40%. 14 hours later, the dinner you ate yesterday is still working on you. And the first meal of the day, about 30 grams of real protein. Eggs, fish, meat, whatever your version is. Below that threshold, the signal barely fires. Above it, the signal lasts. Breakfast either holds you until lunch or it doesn't. 4 eggs holds, 2 slices of toast doesn't. And one more thing, time. The signal takes 15 to 30 minutes to reach your brain. Eat in 8 and the meal is over before fullness shows up. 20-minute meals. Put the fork down between bites. That's the whole rule. There's also a clock on the system. The cells at the end of the line aren't equally awake all day. They fire hardest when there's daylight in the sky and quieten down once it gets dark. 1,000 calories at noon and the same 1,000 calories at midnight trigger very different signals. Same plate, half the response. This is part of why late eating sneaks up on people. You're not just adding calories at the wrong time. You're feeding a system that's already half asleep. The hormone fires, the bouncer gets to work, the brain barely hears it. The simple version, try to keep eating inside a daytime window. A rough 12 hours, give or take, sunrise to sunset, near enough is enough for most people. Nothing strict, just stop expecting a late night meal to fill you up the way the same food did at lunch. None of this requires a supplement. No app, no subscription, just the order of food on the plate, the speed you eat it, and what you ate at the last meal. The breakfast actually doing the work for your appetite is the dinner you ate last night. Your gut is on a delay. There's still the part of this story we haven't closed. Why your body builds a system this good and then destroys it every 90 seconds. What Ozempic actually costs you. The bouncer isn't there to sabotage you, he's there to be the brake. Your natural fullness signal is supposed to be a tide. Rise, peak, fade, rise again at the next meal. The body needs the signal to come and go. The shot is a flood. One injection keeps the signal up for a week. The bouncer never gets to work. For some people, that's the right tool. Severe metabolic problems, a broken signal that won't respond, that's what the drug is for. But here's the trade. When the signal is permanent, hunger goes very quiet. So quiet that people on Ozempic frequently lose up to 40% of their weight as muscle. Not because the drug attacks muscle, it doesn't. Because the signal is so loud, they stop eating the protein and the volume their body needs to keep what they already have. Ozempic doesn't have a break, which is great if you'd like to silence hunger. Slightly less great if you'd like to keep your quads. The 90-second window isn't a flaw, it's the break. Restore the pulse, you keep the break. Replace it with a constant signal, you lose the brake, and the brake was protecting more than just your appetite. The pulse is also why hunger comes back at the right time, in the right size, when your body actually needs fuel. The flood means it doesn't come back. For someone who has spent decades arguing with their appetite, that sounds like a gift. The cost shows up months later, in muscle, in energy, in how the body handles stress at all. So tonight, pour a tablespoon of vinegar into a glass of water. Drink it 20 minutes before dinner. Eat the vegetables first, the protein second, anything refined last. Sit at the table for 20 minutes instead of 8. That's the whole switch. Most people feel the difference inside a week. Meals last longer, the afternoon snack craving softens, the evening graze gets quieter. The deeper change, where the gut at the end of the line actually grows more sensors and the bacteria there start carrying the signal further, takes months of consistent fiber. You're not boosting anything. You're just letting the system you already have actually finish a sentence before being interrupted. Because GLP-1 is only half the story. The other half is insulin, and there's one timing trick almost everyone gets wrong that quietly cancels everything you just learned. That's the next video. Watch it next.